Welcome to this week's OK at Work with myself, Sarah Sawyer, and my colleague Russell Berger from the Offit Kurman Labor and Employment Group. And today we are talking about morality clauses. So morality clauses, typically something that's put into a contract involving termination if there's some type of immoral action, something that hurts a reputation. Sometimes we'll see it in everything ranging from commercial contracts to employment contracts involving C-level employees. And really the goal behind them is that, if someone who's, the company's contracting with acts in a way that's seen publicly as immoral or causes reputational harm, the contract can be terminated by one of the parties. So what do we see with these? Where do we see them? What should people be thinking about when it comes to morality clauses, Russell?
Yeah, and I mean, despite the fact that it's called morality clause, it's really a business reputation clause is probably the more accurate way to think about it. Because really, what it's about is protecting the image of the parties to the contract. So, I mean, you see it all the time in endorsement deals. If you engage in whatever behavior that makes us look bad, and we don't want to associate it with our brand, then we have the right to terminate this agreement. It's the same basic concept, whether it's in a transactional document, in an employment engagement, particularly at the executive level. We see it a lot in for cause definitions. There's a morality provision in there. Typically, if you engage in conduct that does reputational harm to the business or could reasonably be believed to do reputational harm to the business, then we have the right to terminate you, even though you've got a 3-year employment contract with us. So it's really in place to protect the business from the consequences of negative publicity.
Yeah, and I would say I'm seeing this a lot more just every year. I see this more often, just given how quickly things spread online. So I know a lot of these are designed to try to, help provide a remedy if something just takes off like wildfire online. Something that someone did, something that someone said, often comes into play in these clauses, and just because how quickly the damage can be done. So a lot of times in these clauses, I'm seeing too shortened periods of shortened cure periods, shortened periods of time where people can actually address these things because it can happen so fast. So, back in the day, it might have gotten printed in the newspaper where it spreads a little bit slower. But as we're all well aware how quickly things can spread online and how one thing someone says can just get reshared, and everything can move really quickly. So, I've seen where the cure periods are really short, even a couple days sometimes, depending on the industry, depending on the circumstance, and what the likelihood is that something like that might happen and cause harm to one of the parties.
Yeah, yeah, to the extent it can even be cured. Because sometimes it just might not be something that can be cured, and the business, the employer, whoever is just going to have to make a call and separate if need be. So, I mean, I think from our perspective, if you're uh, entering employment with someone and it's not at will, you're agreeing to employ someone for a period of time, you should have this provision in your employment agreement because you should have some ability to get out when certain, among other bad acts or things that could hurt your business. You want to be able to get out when someone says something and it spreads across the internet or spreads across your client base or wherever, and can do you harm. You want to be able to separate from that as quickly as you can. And same thing, in a business relationship. When someone does something that casts a negative light on you, you want to have the flexibility to distance yourself from that.
Where I see a lot of negotiation around these types of clauses, and where the challenge can be sometimes too, is, what actually is something that is going to cause harm or harm to the reputation, or what is a moral act, or there can be some negotiation around that exact language. Does it cause actual harm? Is it something that is reasonably offensive to the community? There's different language depending on the situation that might be appropriate, but that's where I see kind of some negotiation around what actually constitutes something that you can terminate the agreement for. Is it something that people are just upset about and they really shouldn't be? There's some nuance there that definitely should be thought about when you're putting these types of clauses in place for sure.
Yeah, certainly a subject of negotiation, but as we would always say, for whoever we're drafting it for, well, you want to write it in a way that gives you the most flexibility and the most leeway, and we'll negotiate it from there.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Russell, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Sarah.